Morning. Just going to do a quickie for the moment. Would you like to join me for a quickie? It's 8:30 in the morning. All the Yankees are still in bed, so there's not major amounts of news just yet. So I want to show you a few little clips. I want to show you this from AWK News. They've changed that. It used to be And We Know, but they got booted as well off YouTube. So how do I do this? It's early. That one there. I'll click on Google. Is that the first one there? Yeah, listen to this. It's about 4 minutes, I think. This is some COVID data.
To just real quick before we close out, tell you a little bit about the virus and what's going on from, it appears what's being exposed by One American News, that the deaths attributed to coronavirus aren't really part of the coronavirus. They are actually other things.
From the CDC reveal hospitals have been counting patients who died from serious pre-existing conditions as COVID-19 deaths. One America's Pearson Sharp has more, as the CDC counts over 51,000 patients who actually died from heart attacks as opposed to the coronavirus.
The Centers for Disease Control have updated their death counts for coronavirus and reveal yet again that COVID-19 is rarely the actual cause of death among coronavirus patients. According to the CDC themselves, of the 220,000 deaths attributed to the coronavirus, 87,000 of them died from pneumonia and influenza. Another 17,000 died from chronic respiratory diseases, and 26,000 died from respiratory distress syndrome. 44,000 patients died from hypertensive diseases, 23,000 died from heart disease, and a whopping 28,000 died from cardiac arrest and heart failure. Yet all of these, even patients who died from heart attacks, were marked down as dying from the coronavirus. Doctors who spoke with One American News explained that 131,000 patients who are being considered COVID-19 deaths already had life-ending diseases, including cancer, dementia, and even end-stage renal failure. And according to the CDC again, if you look at place of death, you'll see that some 10,000 patients who died from COVID were on hospice care, meaning they were terminally ill to begin with and were already expected to die. Doctors tell One American News that all of these patients were critically ill and likely died from their pre-existing conditions without any help from the coronavirus. However, they explain that the CARES Act, passed by Congress in March, gives hospitals a 20% bonus on their diagnosis-related group paid for by Medicare. Essentially, that means doctors are being paid to list deaths as coronavirus without any indication the patient's death was actually COVID.
So we're starting to see the truth come out even more. But what is that, the beating that was coming out from the mainstream media? Well, they're going to pound out the 225,000 dead, and it's all President Trump's fault. And that includes every media group. They're starting to push the coronavirus scare technique out once again. So there's new deaths attributed to COVID-19 in the United Kingdom, Sweden, Czech Republic, Belgium, France, and Spain, according to the Financial Times. You notice at the very bottom was Sweden, and I don't believe they had a lockdown, but you can see they're way down here in the bottom. Let me I'm going to zoom in on that. See? So you look there, you notice the numbers on Belgium, France, all up here, and look at Sweden as it drops down. Very interesting, right? So, folks, a lot of amazing things going on. It feels so good to have Amy Coney Barrett in.
Let's stop that there. Comes back to my main screen because I like that one. So, yeah, there's just, some of these news stations are reporting stuff, fact, not continuing this monstrous fear campaign of lies. So, what else? Right. Next for them, this child paedophilia cult, Keith Raniere was sentenced to 120 years in jail yesterday. So he's fucked. But this Rachel Chandler, all this Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell stuff, it's meant to be 100 times worse than that. So that's all coming prepare. Right, we've got some Biden news. I'm going to show you this again. PC screen. Right, let's get rid of that. Bit of Bannon again. Listen to this.
We now have the single biggest story in the world, and I say that not reservedly, but I say it as a fact, having been in the news business for a little while and knowing how to break a big story. Because we have a verbal confession by Hunter Biden. Madeline Peltz. Oh, this is not going anywhere. Sorry, not sorry. Maggie Haberman. Maggie. Got to embrace this. It's called embracing the suck. Okay? Raheem Kassam, I'll turn it over to you. I got to hear this. I know you're reserved about playing it, but I think the nation and the world have to hear this. Give it a rip.
You twisted my arm. All right, we'll play it. Let's. Can we load this up, Vish? Is this ready to go? Let's. I think we're ready to go with Real America's Voice.
Okay.
Here we go. Hunter Biden, in his own words, ladies and gentlemen.
I get calls from my father to tell me that the New York Times is calling, but my old partner Eric, who literally has done me harm for I don't know how long, is the one taking the calls because my father will not stop sending the calls to Eric. I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Ho, the fucking spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded, and is now missing. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment and signed a $4 billion deal to build the fucking largest fucking LNG port in the world. And I am receiving calls from the Southern District of New York, from the U.S. Attorney himself. My best friend in business, Devlin, has named me as a witness without telling me in a criminal case. And my father, without telling me.
Wow. We
Yeah.
now have a single...
Right, yeah. Wow, indeed. So, basically, how do I do this? So, basically, yeah, Joe Biden's now implicated. This is only being dripped all the time, little bit by little, by little, by little. There's a lot more stuff to come out, and it's fucking much worse from what we hear. Pictures being dropped all the time, all over the place. Try not to look at them, but that's just Hunter Biden being a bit devious and stuff. So we're not sure how far that goes, but we haven't seen any of that yet, thankfully. With this Bobolinsky as well, this guy coming out doing interviews, giving all evidence and information. And he keeps mentioning he's got Q clearance and stuff. Oh, sorry, 17 clearance or CUE clearance, doesn't he? So that's quite interesting. We watch this space. I want to show you two more things. One more thing is Jacinda Ardern, everyone's favourite New Zealand Prime Minister. And apparently she's just been voted back in by a massive majority. But why people will vote for this? What do people hear? The Kiwi Masonic witch needs some honest patriot coverage. This is what evil looks like. Oh, fucking hell. Imagine her and Ryland having a snog. Nashers like that. Yeah, there's something ain't right about her. Not right at all. Right, so still recording, that's good. I want to leave you with this. This is about 10 minutes long, but this is amazing. From Mark Devlin, made a speech the other day. Now you all need to listen to this, because this, my friends, I love you all, is spot on. People need to wake up and choose their side, because it will always be remembered where you stood at this time in history. Mark.
Thank you. I'm going to freeze for a few minutes so everyone can see the t-shirt. Well, hello Leeds. I feel like a rock star saying that. Am I on this one? Which one's better? This one? Do both. Let's do both. It's a DJ thing. Thanks for turning out today. It's the most effective use of your time in the era in which we're living. So how is 2020 working out for everyone so far? I'm sure we're all really appreciative of the government keeping us safe from the virus. If this is them keeping us safe, imagine what it would look like if they wanted to do us some harm, right? You know, if you'd asked the average person in the UK at the start of 2020 what kind of political system we live in, most people would probably have responded, erroneously, that we live in a democracy, a free country. If you'd said to these same people, what would it take then for you to acknowledge that actually you live in a fascist dictatorship?
Exactly.
Would that involve you being told by the government where you can go, what kind of institutions you can frequent of your will, how many people you can have in your own house, whether you're able to go and see certain members of your family if you choose, whether you're able to go and visit your elderly parents if they happen to be in a care home, and whether you have the right to say what happens to their body should they pass away inside such care homes. If you'd presented those scenarios to these same people, they would probably concede and say, well, yes, if that kind of situation was going on, I would have to acknowledge that we're living in a fascist dictatorship. Well, here we are. And the only way it's been able to succeed is because of the fear-based propaganda and mind control put out there by the treacherous mainstream media, who are every bit as complicit in this scamdemic as these government ministers and those that are pulling their strings and telling them what to do. It would be an entirely different thing if this really were all about some virus. And of course, opinion is divided as to what the true nature of a virus is when you really get into it. But if it really were a pandemic, and we would know it because we'd all know people that have been affected by this, we'd all know people that had died, you'd be seeing people dropping in the street. If this was at real pandemic levels, that would be a rather different case. Still, all these tyrannical measures that have been imposed on us would not be justifiable, but you'd be able to point to a very real threat, at least. And that threat is just not there. As 5 minutes independent research at an internet keyboard will tell anyone with the will to break free of the mind control of the mainstream media and start to think for themselves. It's a scamdemic. There is no threat, even by the official figures, which themselves have been manipulated and overemphasized. The death rate is something like a fraction of 1/10%, if you even buy that story. So there's something else that's going on here as well, and it's elements of satanic mockery.
Yes.
Because the overlords of this scamdemic, when you really get down to their core nature, they are dark occultists. And we have networks and groups of these dark occultists, Satanists, Luciferians, that adhere to ritualistic belief systems. And this filters down through the hierarchical control system into all aspects of our daily lives. So we see evidence of this in the mainstream media, in popular culture, in movies, in music, and this same satanic mindset that permeates everything also comes through the medical system, the so-called health system, the world of the military, the world of science, the world of big business. We see it everywhere. And what we have going on in society right now is a mass satanic ritual in which the majority of people are unwitting participants. The wearing of face masks is a satanic ritual. Look at Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut movie, where he gave you some insights into what really happens at these so-called elite gatherings. The spacing apart of 6 feet is straight out of satanic ritual. You can see pictures, you can see footage of these things going on, where the participants are masked and they're standing a certain distance from each other. Another tenet of the satanic mindset, satanic idealism, is the reversal and the turning upside down of everything. And what they like to do is to take things that are pure and natural and inherent to creation and turn them on their heads. And so we've got a situation now where people who are complying with their own enslavement, with their own tyranny, doing everything they're told by their overlords, wearing the masks, distancing, not having people around their house when they're told they can't, only going out at certain times of the day, being in by 10 p.m. They are being framed in the mainstream media and in polite society as good people, good citizens, virtuous people, doing what they're told, helping to stop the spread of the virus. And the likes of us here today are portrayed as dangerous rebels, putting everyone at risk, helping to spread this thing, you know, where the truth is actually the opposite of this situation. There is no virtue in complying with tyranny and slavery. There is no virtue in doing what you're told by pedophiles and Satanists. And those of us here today, we are standing up for not only our own rights and freedoms, but those of everyone else. We're standing up for the rights and the freedoms of all these frightened people that are buying the official narrative, that really do believe they could drop dead from a virus at any time. So all these people scurrying around in their masks, looking all bewildered, jumping out of the way when you get close to them, because they think if you breathe on them, you can kill them. And isn't that another aspect of satanic thinking? They've got people believing that the very act of living, the purest thing you can do as a human being in respiring, breathing, has somehow become a threat to their lives. More satanic inversion and twistedness. So far from being dangerous and putting everyone else's safety at risk, we are standing up for their rights and freedoms because nobody else will. That's why we're here, and everyone else can thank us later. Because this scamdemic is unsustainable in the long term. The perpetrators of it have overreached spectacularly with this one. It's very out of their character. Normally they do things in very slow incremental steps in terms of trying to fulfill their agendas. With this one, they've thrown everything they've got at us all at once, and it can't fail to have woken vast numbers of people up. It's not happening quick enough for my liking, and we still don't have the numbers, but that is going to come. The longer this is dragged out, the more impositions on people's rights and freedoms that come, the more people are going to begrudgingly acknowledge that we're being lied to big time here. This is the biggest scam ever perpetrated on humanity. And it is going to be the undoing of the evildoers. This is the one that's going to finish them. They've overreached with it, and it's going to backfire on them. 100%. And all it really takes is enough of us to just stop complying with the madness. Imagine if all businesses that have been ordered to close just refused to do it. There was a gym in Liverpool. Exactly. There was a gym in Liverpool which showed the way by refusing to close. They sent armed police in to force its closure. But just imagine if all other businesses in Liverpool, in that city, had stood side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and said, we're not closing. None of us are going to do it. What can you do about it? And imagine if that happened on an individual basis as well, with us, members of society, and we all said, we're not wearing the masks because they don't work. We're not distancing. It's not social in the first place, it's antisocial, but we're not doing it because it doesn't achieve anything. If millions of people stood side by side and refused to comply, where would be the power then? So that's the dynamic that has to occur, and the longer this madness gets dragged out, the more chance there is of that happening. We are going to win this one. We might have a bit of a bumpy road ahead. We might have a few more months of hardship to endure, but this is unsustainable in the long term. It's going to be their undoing. We are going to win this one. And there's only two sides. There's only two sides in this. To paraphrase George W. Bush, who's not a guy I quote that often, but the one thing he did say which really resonated with me was at the time of 9/11, he said, you're either with us or with the terrorists. Of course, they were one and the same because they were the terrorists, but the point he was making was there are only two sides. And there are only two sides in this. You either stand with the evildoers or you stand on the side of rights, freedom, justice, and truth.
Choose your side.
And it will be remembered what side everyone chose.
Yes.
That goes for police officers, that goes for all enforcers of this. It will be remembered what side everyone chose. Choose your side. Thank you.
Fucking brilliant, that is. Let's just shut that down, shall I? That, Mark, was brilliant. Well done. So, I'm going to leave you with that. I might do another one later. Because it's early. So, share the love. Believe. Maybe we can get a bit of world peace going on in the not too distant future. Love and light. Stu's News.